to these type of questions when other people have set the market. The question should be, it's not a bad question, but the question should be, how much is it worth to you when your team don't have a quarterback? Now, how much is that worth to you when you start the season and you got no hope of getting to the playoffs or potentially winning your division? All those things that fans have paid their hard-earned money for teams for a long time. So when you look at, and you mentioned it, $70 million in cap space available. So when you look at that, like, it's not as if they're up against the wall, like they're one or two players away. No, they need playmakers. And if you look at what kind of productivity they would have had last year, if they would have had someone like Kirk Cousins. So how much is it going to cost you to get someone like Kirk Cousins? Going to throw for 4,000 to 4,300 yards, going to throw from 25 to 32 touchdowns. Like, how much is it going to cost? It's going to cost you a lot of money. So absolutely, when you don't have a guy, like people say, well, we need a franchise guy. No, you don't. You need a competent. You need a guy that's in the top 20 quarterbacks in the league, and that's what you have in Kirk Cousins. You have the money, so you don't have an excuse for it. So someone like the Jets, absolutely. They should go out and they should remove everyone else from being a landing spot for Kirk Cousins and ensure themselves that they won't go through what they've been going through for a long time, not just last season, but get yourself a quarterback that then you can turn your concerns to other needs that you have on the team.
So the problem, and this is where you and I butt heads on this sometimes, is I understand that the idea of not having a quarterback is the worst situation in the NFL. So if you can get one, if you can go pay for one that you know is a proven starter, then it almost feels like money is no issue. What I have seen with teams, though, typically, is teams that do that because the guy is in the top 15, but pay him as if he's in the top 5. It hamstrings their ability to put the pieces around him that he needs to be successful. Now, with the Jets, it is an interesting situation because that $70 million is probably going to be closer to $85 million once they make a couple moves with Matt Forte and Muhammad Wilkerson. They have the second most cap space of any team in the league. Only the Browns have more. So either one of these teams, the Browns or the Jets, both of whom need a quarterback. Cousins has been more closely tied to the Jets than the Browns. People think the Browns are going to go through the draft. What they could do is something that I have encouraged teams to do for quite some time, and I think it would make sense, and it might meet Chris and I in the middle, which is you can give him his 5 years, $150 million, which is what he's probably going to get. But instead of doing what you see Joe Flacco's contract do, Drew Brees' old contract do, almost every quarterback's old contract do, which is slowly escalate as time goes on against the cap, you could put $60 million against the cap in year one. So instead of, if just for the math, the way it would normally work, if you did 5 years, 150, it's an average of $30 million a year. Over those 5 years, it would probably be a cap hit of 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. In those last 2 years, you're screwed. If you do $60 million in year one and then only have $90 million to spread out over those final 4, then you can maybe put the more pieces around him and you have the cap space to do it. That would be the instance where I would be okay with giving Kirk Cousins this type of money.
Well, this is the thing. He's going to get the money. Now, how you want to stack it up, no, we've not seen a team to do that, you know, Nick's theory. So I don't think the Jets are going to do it. And I don't think that people try to say maybe if it was Aaron Rodgers, I might do something like that as far as reverse the cap. But if you look at the way the cap is growing, if you look at the percentages that he's going to get, if you give him a contract that only goes up incrementally a small amount, then it's going to still be the same percentage as far as the cap grows into the future.
But Cece, but it won't be because the cap's not going to double in 5 years. And the way they do these things,
but you don't have to have the contract where it jumps up drastically. It can be a normal churn. Like, it doesn't have to be drastic.
The way we've seen most quarterbacks in the past is the first few years are very low, and then it gets very expensive, which is why they restructure. Now, we also haven't seen this contract typically for a guy who's not with his own team. Usually these contracts are, you want to keep Matt Stafford. You want to keep Joe Flacco. You want to keep Drew Brees, right? Garoppolo was kind of one of the first guys, and now we're seeing Cousins, where it's essentially a new team that would be paying him.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's worth the money. I ask the question again. How much is it worth to you when your team, you start the season after Labor Day and you got no chance? So if you have the money, you're better off going out and get you a quarterback. Now, Nick is against giving guys the big contract because what it does to the team. But what is business like without one? So you need a quarterback.
So it's worth it to the Jets. But when it comes to Kirk Cousins, who's the best fit for him as a quarterback?
I don't really think there is a better fit. I think that, when Kirk Cousins, he's in the position right now, he wants to capitalize on the security. So will he take a team that's like the Jets that are a number of players away compared to going places that are a little more ready? Denver not as ready as Minnesota. Minnesota probably won't be able to get him the money. So the fit is, what does he want to accomplish, all right? Washington didn't want to give him the security. So the number one thing he wants to do is security. Now, if he looks outside the box and say, maybe I'm willing to take less, then there's some other teams that would fit him, like Minnesota. Denver is a good fit for him because they need a quarterback.
It would be concerning to me if I were any of these teams that Washington didn't want to keep him. Like, that to me is the first warning sign. The second warning sign is that over the last 3 years, each year, his win total has gone down, his quarterback rating has gone down, his completion percentage has gone down, and his interceptions have gone up. Like, over the last 3 years, the worst year he had was this past year. Now,
what kind of season was he supposed to have when they got rid of 2,000-yard receivers? Pierre Garçon, they let go to San Francisco. Deshaun Jackson, they let go to Tampa Bay. So was he supposed to improve? I mean, because he had amazing numbers. You get rid of 2,000-yard receivers, you go into free agency, you make a plunge, and you get Terrell Pryor from Cleveland, and he only catches 20 passes for you, so Kirk Cousins is getting the backlash for that.
Well, that gets us back to the point that our friend Eric Mangini makes, which is I understand what you're saying, but when you are going to be paid what he's going to be paid...
That has nothing to do with it, because they've set the market. It's got, like... People, because it's the quarterback position, it's going to be the most highest paid. All right? It's just like a left tackle. You cannot play the game without him. So you're going to have to pay the premium. So it's not a matter of what's it worth. Like, what will the market bear?
Well, here's why, and you and I just have a fundamental disagreement on that, and that's fine. But the reason that I think the money does matter is because unless you are going to do what I'm saying and front load the contract, or unless the Browns or Jets are going to sign him when they do have this enormous amount of cap space, you are not going to be able to go get. There's a reason Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson were not retained. It was because of the money they had to attribute to Kirk Cousins last year. Like, that's a real thing. Now, to answer your question, what team that I think would make the most sense, I think the Browns and Jets actually have similar offensive talent. There's so much less pressure and less of a pressure is probably the wrong word. Less of a spotlight and less of an expectation to win immediately in Cleveland than in New York. I think the Browns could make a lot of sense. Now, we haven't seen a high-priced free agent pick the Browns in quite some time.
Is Cousins a guy who can handle spotlight and pressure, do you believe?
This every quarterback. There is no spot. I mean, we thought Jacksonville, they weren't. Look at what they do to the Blake Bortles. Every spot in the NFL, if you're a starting quarterback, there's going to be heat. It don't matter if you're in Cleveland, Denver, Minnesota, New York. They all have pressure, and there's more pressure on the franchise and the coaching staff when you don't have one. So how much are you willing to pay to start the season and say you got no hope? All right, so if that costs $30 million, I'm willing to give that guy the $30 million because at least I start the season with a chance.
And that's what's going to happen, by the way. Like, the Jets will be thrilled if they sign him. The Browns will be thrilled if they sign him. Well, hold on. Be fair. The only way to be right on this, if we're going to say someone's going to be right or wrong, is to see if they are happy with him once the contract is going. Now, we all know he's going to get paid.
Joe Flacco got paid, right?
And I guarantee the Ravens wish they hadn't done that.
But it don't matter. He got paid, though.
Right, we all agree.
It's not a matter of they going to be happy. It's what does it take? What's the price of doing business? And this is the price. The Jets want to be in the game, all right? Pay the quarterback. If the Browns, if they want to get in the game, pay the quarterback, all right? Because those who don't have them, we know what the result is, all right? So Baltimore, Flacco won them a Super Bowl, which warranted him the big contract. These other teams, when you have cap space, San Francisco, go out and get your guy, all right? If you believe in him, you have to lay the money on the wood to be able to get the guy.
We're staying on the topic of quarterbacks coming up. Should we be comparing Baker Mayfield and Johnny